Snipers, you have to see what's happening to the Bitcoin price this Sunday as our weekly candle closes in less than 30 minutes. So I had to get out this emergency update because we have new previous weekly opens across the board. And so the charts look a lot different right now. This is an extremely important update, a lot to talk about. Let's dive straight into the charts. So right now, the major support for Bitcoin is 18,809 US dollars. Any hourly and 4-hour candles below 18,809 for Bitcoin opens up the door to an extremely volatile move to potentially test 17,204, and for the extreme bears, potentially even 13,970. All that could open up from 18,809, the new major support level for the next 6 days. And then check this out, Snipers. Bitcoin's daily Bollinger Band suggesting a move is imminent. And not only that, I wanted to show you guys this visual of 2018 versus 2022, where Bitcoin had a prolonged cup of coffee at an extremely important support level before a final move to the downside and bottoming out. That was, of course, the bottom in 2018. Right now, Bitcoin doing the same thing, having a long cup of coffee at an extremely important support, coinciding with our Snipers support level potentially coming down to test 17,204 again. And then once again, if we do see any further downside below 17,204, that's where 13,970 comes on the table. Now, what's also very interesting is we do have the chance of potentially seeing upside coming into this new week, because remember, we have new monthly candles across the board. And yes, this was the first monthly candle to breach this major support here, the 2018 previous all-time high. We closed below it for the first time. Even when we first came down to test this demand zone around 17,000, we never closed a monthly candle below the major support, but we just did that. And so because there's a new monthly candle, there's still a chance Bitcoin is going to at least have one more fighting chance to get above this 2018 previous all-time high at 19,800. And if that's the case, we really want to start to see follow through. And what's interesting about that thesis is notice how we had two very different weekly candles that are giving us some very important hints. One of them was a very bullish weekly candle indicating that Bitcoin still could potentially move to the upside. And what's interesting about that weekly candle is we are still playing inside of that candle's body and wick range, and so it's still a valid candle. Then the next week we had the opposite, an extremely bearish candle pointing downwards, and so the bears could say that that's also potentially on the table there as well. So this right here is a very tight consolidation zone where Bitcoin could certainly make a move to the upside here, or potentially a move to the downside, but all of that is going to be based upon this major support level, 18,809 for the downside, and this major resistance level at 19,800 for the upside. So this is the extremely tight range that Bitcoin is currently playing in. And then across the board for futures markets, you can see the DXY and the S&P 500 quite calm right now, but US oil is up 2%, which is extremely interesting. I believe OPEC had an announcement today, and that is causing US oil to move 2% to the upside. That typically I wouldn't say is a positive thing, because if oil is moving to the upside when commodities are doing strong, sometimes that affects the prices of risk on assets like Bitcoin and the indices like the NASDAQ. But overall in the macro, there's an inverse correlation usually between oil and the US dollar strength. So that could assume that maybe we see a pullback with the US dollar, which we know we're facing major resistance. Ethereum, a little bit of a different picture here. You can see that the previous weekly open isn't as significant for Ethereum right now. 1277 is being tested. That's a major support. If we break below 1277, it opens up the door to 1165 and potentially coming below 1,000 US dollars for a wick. What's more important though right now, we have to monitor this Ethereum to Bitcoin chart as it's starting to slip down. 65,000 Satoshis is the most important level. We don't want to see the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart breach below 65,000 Satoshis this week if we want to stay bullish on Ethereum's pairing against Bitcoin. So with US oil up 2%, that could allow the dollar to continue to cool off. And the dollar, you can see the last two daily candles closed pretty bearish, and it's testing a multi-year resistance level. Could this buy us some time to maybe not see a major downside scenario in Bitcoin or the equity markets. I think that what we have to keep in mind is the rule that the markets will always do the exact opposite of what people expect. And so as everyone is expecting 14,000 to come on the table, what happens when Bitcoin pumps back above 25,000, gets back above its 20-week moving average for the first time? The DXY starts to cool down. It faces resistance at a major macro structural resistance level. And then what if later down the road, the DXY continues further up and then Bitcoin does come down and form new yearly lows? That's all on the table. Doesn't mean it has to happen immediately, but we do know the Bollinger Bands are indicating a move coming very soon. And so I'll let you guys kind of, think about what could happen with this, because I think the most important rule we have to keep in mind in a situation like this is the markets always do the exact opposite of what we expect. So with that, and we know the DXY is also facing major resistance right now, that could be a major catalyst to allow some relief in the equity markets and Bitcoin. So let's see what happens, snipers. Thank you all for tuning into the Sunday update. As the week progresses, we will get more clarity, as the weekends tend to be the most manipulated. So take everything with a grain of salt today. But just remember 18,809, the new major support level for Bitcoin, the previous weekly open, the 19,800, the major resistance for Bitcoin right now. And with that, thank you guys for tuning into the Snipers channel. Enjoy the sunset, and I will see you guys next time. Snipers.